Hello everyone, I'm Admiral Ellis of the TTO, and welcome back to another episode of the Admiral's Musings. I just came back. You may notice I'm missing a lot of my hair. That was on purpose. No funny story behind that, unfortunately. But I did just come back from the accepted student celebration over at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, where I'll be spending the next 4 years of my life. Because of that, in the meantime, I was able to break away Friday night and go and try and scout out a new area for a base. Not something big, something actually temporary. There's a very large body of water nearby. That's Lake George, but not quite big enough for me to park Devereaux. So instead, I was looking for maybe an old warehouse or industrial building that I'd start being able to drill down in, and people wouldn't be too concerned. So there was a lot of construction going on. I did find a couple of decent candidates. I'm not going to say where they are, but they're around the Albany-Troy area. There were a couple of areas that were away from everything that I also considered, but until I get information back from the city of Albany, Rensselaer, and the city of Troy, and the New York State government. I've already discussed my plans with the U.S. government, but they need to let it trickle down through the layers before I get any actual go-aheads. This base, I do want to have some more legitimate reactors. Again, I had a reactor set up in the old base, and, well, I had an idea for one. Didn't quite happen. I had a Naquita, whatchamacallit, I had a Naquita generator that I kept around in case, and it put out a decent amount of power, but it wasn't your normal kind of high-power tech. As for our guest, he didn't come with me. Right, Marco? He actually had his head up a minute ago. It looked really cute. Marco, who's that? There we go. Hi, Marco. You're a good boy. Very good boy. Sorry about the chair. Now, this base is not going to be anywhere near on par with the other ones. If we do go with one of the industrial sites, we're not going to have a runway, so I'm probably not going to be able to use the Steambird unless I register it under something else and park it at the airport nearby, because there aren't too many flat open stretches for me to fly the thing or to take it off from. Been concepting a vertical launcher for that thing. You get in it in like the sabers in Halo Reach. You just go straight up. You've been concepting it. It hasn't worked out too well. I smashed a couple of prototypes, and the third one didn't get me halfway into orbit. It got me most of the way there. I mean, well, it got me most of the way to halfway. It got me to a point where the engines would start to take over. But right now, all I have for use is basically a catapult launcher and some solid fuel boosters. And the solid fuel boosters, they can do the trick, but I've been avoiding them because they're so bright and loud. Also, they kick up a lot of gunk. They just, they spray smoke everywhere, and they're not reusable. I'd have to buy new ones every time, and that would be hellish in terms of cost. Speaking of cost, I do actually get a lot of my funding from the Time Travelers Organization. What we do for that, I mean, of course, we can ignore that. We could very simply forge currency, but we don't like to do that. What we do is, half the reason we have bases so that we can earn currency of whatever it is, and then we go into different time periods I'm very tired from the trip, and convert it down. Like if you went into 2112, for example, went to an off-world colony, or even if you went to the Covenant in 2012 or 2112, because they did exist, but not in the form that you know them in Halo. If you went to them, made a business or whatever, or joined the military or whatever, you would earn currency. Then you could put that in a bank, basically, and let it sit there for some time the until the Human Covenant War ended, at which point you could convert the Covenant currency into human currency. Getting money back through time is a lot more difficult. It's in those kind of situations where you do kind of, you scale for inflation, and then you kind of make your own stuff from that point. But we're not pulling money out of thin air. We do work for every dollar we spend. Most of the time that we can get by on our own. We do a lot of trade, as I've talked about before. We do a little bit of worldly operations such as mining. But stuff like that, when you start an operation like that, you normally start selling to the people in that area of time and space. Mostly because it's a pain to transport the cargo, but partially because it'd be silly to take all of that from them instead of just not disrupting the timeline, just putting a little bit of a middleman in there makes it just as simple. Slightly less simple, but it still works, and that's all that really matters. As long as we continue policing the universe, and the universe continues without any sort of worry. That's what we're there for. What else can I move on to talk about? We have another 8 minutes if I want to bring us around to the whole 15. I could always make this short. But yeah, no, Rensselaer situation, going to be getting a bachelor's in civil engineering if everything goes to plan. We know how that turns out. The world could end in the meantime. But yeah, no, that's why I didn't set up anything here. There's the old Cranston base, which is dead and gone, essentially. And then there's going to be the new Rensselaer base, which is going to be only a temporary solution for 4 years, or maybe a little bit longer, depending if I stay in the area or not. And then I'll be shutting that one down as well, or I'll be turning that over to another group. What I've actually been working on doing is the assembly of a kind of micro team there. Not a lot happens on the East Coast. I mean, New York you'd think would be a mecca, but I don't know. They go towards the off-world site first. Wow, okay. That happened again. They go towards the off-world site first, so you see more trouble in Colorado than you do in New York. Surprising, but it happens. Nonetheless, as for the not the skirmishes, but the unusual extraterrestrial visitors blending in as humans, that's where New York is a big mecca. The whole northeast area, because it's so heavily populated and so full of technology, you either go here, you go to Europe, or Japan sometimes, but Japan has its own task force that we don't really associate with them. We do go hand in hand a little bit, but they've got their own place locked down. Russia is a different story. We have no idea what's going on in Russia, really, and I have no idea if Putin can wrap his brain around exactly what might be going on in his home country. I don't trust Putin, and I mean, I have my reasons, and not to say that time travel has its advantages with assisting in foresight, because we normally don't use it for that, but you can look far enough ahead and see the ripples of what's going to happen. Not saying that something big, not saying World War III is going to happen, but saying that definitely even what's happened recently with Crimea, you see the effects of that well into the future. Just makes you think about, you may feel insignificant with how small you are and the universe is so big, but the littlest thing you can do can cause a huge chain reaction. It'll echo centuries into the future, whether humanity's around to see it or not. Whether sentient beings are around to observe the consequences of your actions, there will be consequences. No matter how small, no matter how large. I mean, there's nothing... The universe is a world of multiplication and division. A world where you can't reach zero unless you already have it. Which is why it's damn near impossible to get to absolute zero. I'm not sure if anyone's managed it. They've come within fractions. But you can't multiply to zero unless you have a zero to begin with. So that's my thoughts on that. And I'm just going to cut it here because I've run out of things to talk about. I have done, to bring it back around to the actual writing standpoint, which is why this channel is here to begin with, I have written a little more of The Sorcerer's Daughter, and I'm going back through and restructuring the second book, which is The Rise of Devereaux, which needs to have a redo because the characters are all kind of shallow. So it's something I need to take hold of and keep working on, but I need to finish up my other projects first, and they're almost done. So, if you're in the Albany-Rensselaer area, beware of starships in your skies. I keep on staring out at those stars. I know they have an observatory over there. I've been waiting to go and look through it and hope I can't see my ship. Have a good evening, people.